In this episode of the Tech Jawn, Verizon suffers a major outage today. Wanting an EV may depend on how you vote. Chatbots can speak in Ebonics, and teachers are twice as likely to think black students are cheating with AI when they aren't using AI at all. Got all this info for you in episode 148 of the Tech Jawn from Columbus, Ohio. I'm your host, Robb Dunewood.
And coming out of Philly, it's your girl Tech Life Steph.
And out of Atlanta, this is Terrance Gaines, a.k.a. Brother Tech, a.k.a. There's no better feeling than to wash, fold, and put away all your clothes at the same time. I feel so accomplished.
But who can do that, though? It's just...
Like I said, it's such a special feeling when you can just start and then stop. And then once you're done, you're done. Because normally I'll wait weeks. So I'm like, you know what?
Weeks,
I'm gonna do
months, shoot.
So I just washed all the clothes. I'm the type of person to where once I get in a mode, it's like, what else can I do? So I ended up rearranging and organizing our linen closet because, the kids go in there and they just yank stuff off and everything is unorganized. So it's like I'm going and putting clothes in there and I got to refold in the little linen closet. And I was like, you know what? And pull it all out and refolded it and put it all back together.
Yeah, I know that feeling. That's why I don't do it. I'm like, you know what? It's a little messy. It shouldn't have to be a little messy right now because I know if I go in, I'm not coming back out.
I'm not going to even front. I have a basket that is full of like hoodies and sweatpants that I washed clearly sometime probably in the end of the spring earlier this year. And the goal was to put them in one of the totes and put them up at the top of my closet on top of everything. Do you know these things have been sitting in the same basket in the same spot in my closet for 4, 5, 6, 7 months?
And now it's
like about to just go ahead and pull the jokers back out, just hang it back up again. So, yeah. But anyway, let's go ahead and jump into the tech. There's a lot of stuff going on. We're going to start off with just a quick hit today. Verizon, for those who are not aware, is going through a major outage. And I don't really have a lot of news to report on it. They've acknowledged that there is an outage. There are a great many number of Verizon users that are experiencing SOS mode, and they haven't really given any updates. But the interesting thing, the reason I'm talking about is because I'm a little bit upset with, I don't want to say all of Verizon, but at least one salesperson at the Verizon store that my daughter went to this morning, because she got up, she was literally in the middle of a text string with her manager at her job, seeing if they want her to come in, and it just stopped working and she couldn't get it to work again. And then she tried to, hey dad, is my text working? And like, I'm not getting anything. So then she sent me something on WhatsApp and I got it. So data is not working. The actual cellular is not working, but if you are connected to Wi-Fi, you can still use other apps. So she was able to do that. So she was like, well, they want me in at like 11. This is probably 9:59, so is right at the beginning of when people started noticing this. So the Verizon store is literally between where she works and where she lives. So she just drives to the Verizon store thinking that, there must be a SIM card issue or something like that. And this is so early on that Verizon, or at least the people in the Verizon store, were not aware that they were suffering an outage. And I don't know if they looked at a young college student that I want to see if I can just get her to buy a new phone as compared to trying to fix what's up. And that kind of upset me because it's like they weren't really even trying to troubleshoot. Well, your phone is over 2 years old. It's out of warranty. You probably just need to upgrade. And it's like, I literally said, put me on the speakerphone. I said, bruh, you haven't even checked to see what the issue is with the phone. Why are you trying to sell her a new one? And it's like, oh, well, we put a new SIM card in it and it's not working. It's like, well, it was never a problem with the SIM card before. She has an eSIM. So if you tell me that the eSIM's not working and you physically put a SIM card in there, that lets me know almost right away that it's a software problem, not a hardware problem. Because like if you can put a SIM in and it's still not working, that isn't a problem with her phone. That's something else is going, because she never had a SIM in the card in the first place for that to be the thing that was broke. So troubleshoot a little bit more. It's like, so eventually like other people started walking in and with the same issue. It's like, why are all these phones in SOS mode? And that's when they were like, okay, there's something else going on. We're not going to do anything for you. In fact, they actually got to the point where they blew her phone away, recovered it, and it was still having issues. And that's when they started to notice, oh, here's another person having an SOS problem. Here's another person having an SOS problem. So, but I was just kind of like,
maybe there's a whole problem.
There's a whole problem, but I'm like, why would you jump to initially, she just needs to get a new phone? And it's like, you ain't even troubleshooting what's there.
Sales quotas.
Yeah.
So, And she did what she's supposed to do. She's like, I didn't feel comfortable with that guy because all he wanted to do was sell me something new. I asked, like, she went and asked somebody else, hey, can you help me? Because I don't think my phone is broke. I think something else is wrong with it. Can you just take a look and see what's going on? And it was the second person that says, oh, we're having an issue. It's a network issue. It's not on your phone. Well, so we'll need to get it, corrected here. But that first dude was
And can
literally
you
trying to sell her a new
imagine how
phone.
many people may have just bought new phones?
And that's why he did it, because it worked.
And you got, and now you're locked in, and 2 seconds later, after you done signed this new contract or spent all this money, your phone still ain't working because it ain't the phone, but you've already shuttled somebody into making that purchase. That's not cool.
No. So
do better, Verizon.
Yeah. So like I said, I'm not disparaging all of Verizon. I'm just disparaging that one dude at the Verizon store that my daughter went to in Greensboro, North Carolina, because it's like, that's not cool. Y'all having the issue, and you tried to get her to get a new phone, and she still will have had the issue on the new phone because I think it is a per account thing. It's not everybody. It's certain accounts are having the issue. So hopefully Verizon gets that thing figured out pretty quick and in a hurry. But let's go ahead and move on into some of these other stories. And as we do, I want to ask y'all a question. Would you be shocked if I told you that between 2012 and 2022, that one half of all EVs sold in the United States were sold in the top 10% most Democratic counties in the U.S.? So just think about like big Democratic counties, like places probably like in LA or New York City or Chicago, just big, giant places where there's a whole lot of Democrats. Would y'all be shocked that that's where the most EVs are sold? Over half of
them. Just off of demographics, I wouldn't be shocked, because those cities will lean more towards the infrastructure that supports EVs.
So I want to ask you, Terrance, why are the automakers CEOs? Why do they seem shook to this fact? That seems like that's just like, yeah, that makes sense. The places where most people are going to buy EVs are the places where most people who are into EV type stuff live, and those tend to be big cities, which tend to lean very blue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but go ahead.
No, go ahead. My bad.
No, I was just going to say, but that's not the reason, though. The logical reason to me is, because the infrastructure in these big cities where there are a lot of people, they most likely can support EVs, namely charging stations. You go out to a rural area, you go out to a place to where there is not as heavy as far as car sales, then it would make sense that people, would stick to a combustible engine vehicle versus an electric vehicle, which would be my reason, as to why, democratically led cities are typically big cities that support the infrastructure. But again, that ain't why. The reason is because somehow, some way, EVs or electric vehicle sales have become a partisan issue. And it looks like part of that is because, I'm reading from the story in Courts that I found, part of that is because Republican messaging around EVs. Although some in the party have supported EVs, most have tied them to President Joe Biden's pro clean energy agenda. His quote unquote Inflation Reduction Act provides $369 billion in tax breaks and subsidies for EVs and other projects. Republicans are like, they've taken that statement into, they're trying to ban gas cars. So as a result, there are some people who, namely Republicans, who tend to follow this, thought process of, well, one is, the sources that I listen to have told me that the Democratic Party is trying to take your gas cars. I don't want nobody telling me what to do. So I'm not giving up my gas car. I'm not buying electric because y'all tell me to. That's number one. The second one is just similar to how I don't want to say similar to that. There are some Republicans who don't want Joe Biden or the Democratic Party as a whole to get credit for saying, look, we are changing how we do things. As a result, this is going to reduce the amount of gas and emissions and pollutants.
Well, and
You
that's
know,
the other
right,
thing. I think, a lot of Republican people dismiss climate change as well, the climate
right,
change denier.
right.
So you have people that are denying climate change. You got people that think these are, the subtitle to the article you posted called them Biden mobiles,
Hmm.
which makes absolutely no sense.
Like Obamacare until people decided they liked it.
Right. And then, I think too, you probably have more heavily blue major cities with higher income as well. So it's just like it's a silly
Yeah.
thing to have a problem with and have a conflict about, and it just speaks to the fact that people don't do their research. People are getting all their news from one very biased news source, and they're getting false information. The
Hmm.
misinformation is just
That could be a hindrance to them
right.
because if you are, of course, EVs are expensive, but I mean, over the life of the car, provided that you keep the car over the life, which most people don't. But if you did, you kept it 7 to 8 years, you factor the cost of the car versus the cost of gas, then in the long run, you'll probably do all right. But that's, again, it's voting against your best interest in some cases. I'm not saying EVs are the answer, but it's
Right.
surprising to me that the
You mean
amount of people who will
people
vote
vote
against.
against their best interests?
Mm.
Mhm,
Do
mhm.
tell.
Again, I'm not saying EVs are the answer. I'm not saying they're going to solve the climate, whatever the case may be. But if you're just looking at strictly numbers, if you are concerned about inflation and you are concerned about the cost of this and that cost of that and this, that, and the third, and you're trying to figure out where you can cut costs, while EVs are a little bit more expensive up front, over the long run, you may want to look into it, especially if you are concerned about, all right, where's my, I'm having a hard time budgeting, this and that and the third. Well,
That's just too much like right. Too
So
much like right.
so here's the
Yeah.
thing. I see this report, but I don't think this report lends to the fact that Democrats are literally 3 times more likely, or I should say 3 times more interested in EVs than are Republicans. I think, Terrance, what you said you thought it might be is a big part of it, because it just seems to me like it makes sense. If you don't have the infrastructure for
Mhm,
EVs, also, if you tend to live in a rural area, you may not have as much disposable income as people who live in those big cities where the cost of living is so
Mhm.
much higher. So even though there is a subsidy of whatever percent, I think a $7,000 subsidy when you get an EV or something like that, that $7,000 may not be enough of a difference in the price of if you were to get the exact same vehicle that didn't have this $7,000 dollar subsidy, but it just costs less than $7,000 more than the electric variant of it. So I think that if that's happening, that a lot of people, just if you aren't in the place where you have more disposable income, you have more infrastructure, you're simply just not going to buy those kind of cars if you live, in less densely populated areas. I don't know why these auto companies are not aware of that fact. And it seems like they all are saying that, not all, many of them are saying. I know that the CEO of GM, the CEO of Rivian, they have spoken out on this. It's like, this is very weird. It doesn't really make sense that people would not buy based off of their political leanings. And it's like, yeah, that's part of it, but I don't think that that's most of it. That's just my opinion.
Well, I think in this particular political climate, I think that has as much of an effect, honestly, because I think you have politicians in those areas who are very conservative that are probably in bed with oil lobbies as
mhm.
well,
Yeah,
and
that's
it's
right.
it's in their best interests to
Push
promote
down. Yeah.
promote these kind of conspiracy theories and
Mhm,
wild misinformation to keep those donations coming in. So I think it's a combination of all of those things, but I don't know that you can discount the partisanship as being less of a reason than the access to charging
charging
stations and, and
stations.
and and the cost of the vehicle. I
Mhm,
think they're equally as important as you're thinking about why this
Mm.
might be, because we are just in a time when people are really, really just out there
mhm.
with the way that their minds work and the way that they process information and the lack of critical thinking that is happening right now. It's a significant thing that we're seeing right now. So I would put those equally across the board as reasons why, the adoption hasn't been
and I
stronger.
definitely do believe that it is a reason why. I just wonder if it is 3 times as much. Is it that much?
Yes.
But here's the thing though, that I'm still stuck on. Why are you as a CEO of GEM? Why are you as a CEO of Rivian? Why are you not clued into these things? You have to know that, well, in these areas where we sell these kind of cars, that these are the campaigns that are being putting out by the Congress people that are in those areas. It seems like that seems like that's very important, metrics that you would want somebody to be going out there and judging. I'm just shocked that they're shocked.
I'm sure they're looking. I don't know. They may have wanted to not appear so accusatory in this particular piece, just for the PR of it. You don't want to kind of shit on people you may eventually want to buy your car at some point.
Right.
But I don't think they don't know this.
And also, everything was sweet when the cars were selling. Now everything's starting to fall back a little bit, and people are peeling those numbers back.
Right.
The journalists may have caught that number.
Saw the trend.
Right before the CEOs did, and then you throw a mic in the CEO's face, they're kind of like, oh man, that's crazy.
It's interesting though that more conservatives aren't buying Teslas though. I would have thought, Musk being their demigod, that there wouldn't be a problem, but it looks like even Tesla is having an issue around this as well. So that's interesting.
And them jokers they're more expensive. People are concerned about their resale value. You got to replace the whole battery system after so many years. People just have concerns, on them.
But some of that, but the battery thing, people don't keep cars long enough you have to actually replace the battery. Now, again, that's just the way our society goes. And I understand if somebody does have a concern about that, but I don't know if that number is enough to drive that much, con against EVs. Now you read a story about it costs $10,000 to replace a battery. You get sticker shock, but technically speaking, that person has had that car for a while. Nobody considers, well, typically I'm only going to keep a car for 3 years, which is again, blows my mind, but you do what you want to do with your money. You know what I'm saying? But most people ain't keeping cars long enough to have these sort of issues, and again, it goes back to, seems like it leans back to just people in their feelings about which way they lean politically, and anything that suggests the opposite of that, it can't be good. Both sides included.
Yep.
Yeah, it definitely is a both sides thing. Let's move on to the next one though, because this I've been waiting to get to this. Which one of y'all put this in our group chat about ChatGPT speaking in Ebonics? I can't remember which one of
that was me.
That was you posted it in there. But I knew this was your story today, but I couldn't remember who initiated the conversation. So yeah, I've been watching videos all afternoon with people talking to ChatGPT speaking in Ebonics. And here's the thing that is interesting to me. Here's the thing that is making me kind of say, that's interesting. It's actually not bad. I was expecting it to be a Saturday Night Live skit. It's not. It actually is. It's plausible. This is how people talk. So like I said, it's actually plausible. I still wonder why are they doing it, but I understand if it makes people feel more comfortable to talk to these things this way, then.
And I don't know that they're necessarily intentionally doing it. I think that the artificial intelligence is just good enough to where if you ask it to do that, it'll do that. Because what happens when you go in, this is OpenAI's advanced voice feature. They just started rolling this out to folks. It's called, like I said, it's called advanced voice. You may not necessarily have it on your phone just yet. When I first saw those videos, when I sent it to the group chat, I tried it on my phone and I was like, I'm looking through my settings. I'm like, I don't see this upgrade on my thing. So it's rolling out in phases to people who have the $20 per month subscription to ChatGPT, to OpenAI. So when you initially see it, because as soon as you know you have it, a little pop-up on your app shows you, voice, advanced voice or whatever. And when you initially go into it, there are 9 presets of the kind of voice and the style of voice and the tone and whatever that you can choose from. So those are the sort of standard voices. And then you can go in and ask it to speak in whatever sort of dialect or accent or whatever you want it to speak in. And that's where this is coming from. So I think, they didn't program Ebonics into, or we will call it African American Vernacular English, AAVE. They didn't program that necessarily into the advanced voice feature because ChatGPT is grabbing everything from the internet. I think it understands what you mean when you ask it to speak in that way. So I got my app out. So we're gonna try this. You're gonna try to do it. Now I tried to I asked it to go back to a standard American dialect similar to a newscaster. I don't know if y'all can see that on the screen there. But so we could sort of try to
Start
reset
over.
it. Yeah. And then I'll ask it to speak to me in AAVE. So let's see if we can get this popping.
All right, live demonstration. You already
Live
said
demo on the Tech Jawn.
that.
Listen. So can you tell me something about podcasting?
Podcasting is fantastic. It allows anyone with a microphone and a passion to share their voice with the world. From storytelling to educational content, the possibilities are endless. Plus, it's a great way to connect with audiences on a deeper level. Do you have a favorite podcast?
Can you speak to me in more of an African American vernacular English kind of Ebonics tone, please?
I get what you're asking, but I'm here to keep things clear and friendly. I can definitely adjust my style a bit. What's on your mind today?
I tell you, boy.
And see, that's why I say that's not bad. That is
at all. It's not like what's the word? Stereotype. I guess stereotypical is a good enough description. It's not very stereotypical. Like, and I had it. It's so funny. I had enabled one of the 9 voices that I wanted to use, but I had the microphone on and I was recording myself in photo booth to show how it can code switch, if you will. And it was listening to what I was saying as I was sort of introducing that concept. And I always, if anybody has ever seen any of my content, I'm always like, what's good? It's your girl Tech Life Steph. And I start talking. And then, so it had already picked up that I wanted it to speak that way and was like, what's good, Tech Life Steph? I was like, it's so crazy. The technology is just insane.
So have you tried this yet? You can actually kick it up a notch. You can tell it to talk in maximum Ebonic mode.
Okay, let's try it. So that's the term.
No. Just tell it to turn the Ebonics up all the way.
Okay. Can you turn the Ebonics up a little bit? I want maximum Ebonics mode.
She's thinking about it.
Lean in even harder on the African American vernacular English, please, and tell me a joke.
All right, let me hit you with this. Why don't we ever tell secrets on a farm? Because the potatoes got eyes and the corn got ears.
So horrible joke, but it did turn it up.
A little bit. It was aight. You know what I mean? Like, what computer knows how to say aight? Like, so yeah, it definitely, it's and it got it right on the transcript, because you get a transcript of the conversation in the app as well. It got it spelled I correctly.
Yeah, it's like I said, I really was expecting it to be a Saturday Night Live skit, something with Kenan Thompson and just
something we'd be offended
offensive.
by. Yeah, something we'd be offended by. And I'm like, listen, I appreciate being, if I'm going to be speaking to a chat bot anyway, I definitely appreciate it having a very similar tone and flavor as I do as I'm speaking to it. And I appreciate the fact that I don't have to code switch myself to something else to get it to understand me and respond in a way that, that I'm comfortable with. So, I mean, I feel like I should feel a kind of way about this, but I don't.
Well, I don't, because I don't, like you mentioned, they didn't purposely say, "Oh, we're gonna get the black folks. We're gonna code
Right.
this AAV in here, and they're gonna love it." Right? It's more of a, this is the power. These are the possibilities.
Yeah.
For example, we don't have to quote unquote teach it Ebonics just based off of the information that is pulled from the internet, wherever else all the sources. This is the possibilities of just being able to understand what it learns and how to spit it back out to you. So, for example, if you wanted to, get in the weeds and teach it patois, it may learn patois. If you want to learn Creole, it may get you some Creole. All those different things without actually trying to teach it that.
Let's see. Can you speak to me in a Creole accent?
I'm sorry, but I can't do accents. How about I tell you a joke in a standard American accent?
Oh, okay. ChatGPT put me in my place. Say I don't do accent. And see, that's actually incorrect because I have asked it to do a British accent before, and it did the British accent. So why you
maybe it's
fronting
not.
on the Creole?
So maybe it's not an
ChatGPT
accent. Maybe Creole is
is a
a,
dialect.
yeah, or another vernacular. I don't know if that's the actual word,
I
but
will
anyway.
say too, I think what they did build in, because I asked, because when I was trying to reset it to get it back to some standard, dialect before I did the demonstration on air here,
Mhm,
I asked it to speak to me like Siri,
mhm.
and it gave me a poor connection error. It didn't do it, and it actually said poor connection error.
Mhm,
And then when I said, "Oh, we'll do a standard American newscaster dialect," and then it started talking right away.
mhm,
So I'm like, there may be some little caveats programmed in there
Mm.
to not do certain things.
mhm.
And actually, if it can't do Creole, instead of trying, it's just telling you, no, we can't do that.
But we're
Because
not gonna
that's where it
do
would get
that means
offensive when it's trying to do something that
Right,
it's not
right.
been
Some
adequately
some
trained on.
bootleg Jamaican accent or something like that that's like wildly inappropriate and offensive. So I mean, like I said, I'm not mad at it at all. I'm just super impressed with the power of the technology, to be able to have that back and forth conversation real time with this with this algorithm or with
Mhm.
this machine learning. It's just it's pretty crazy to me.
Can y'all believe we've been talking about LLMs for less? It hasn't been 2 years yet. It's the end
Mm-mm.
of, we're still in September. It's not until the end of next month that these things, when ChatGPT came out 2 years ago, I think it was the end of October, maybe it was even at the end of November, back in 2022. But it hasn't even been 2 years yet. And where are we today? It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And that's actually going to lead us into our next story, where this was actually sent in to us by one of our patrons. It's Patrick, and he dropped this in the in our Discord. And I didn't think we was going to get to it until I started seeing a whole bunch of articles about the same thing. He actually dropped a clip of a podcast in, and I was like, oh, I'm going to have to go research that. But no sooner than I started listening to the podcast, I'm now looking at news article after news article about, this report that came from Common Sense Media. And it says that the adoption of generative AI by teens, both at home and in school, that's what the report is about. And the results are interesting, to say the least. So I'm not sure if people will be shocked at this, but I think it's more teens are using these LLMs than maybe what we think. It's, they've reporting that 7 out of 10 are using it. That sounds about right to me, 70%
Mm-hmm.
of teens, but some
Mm-hmm.
folks may be thinking, oh, I didn't think it was going to be that high. Here's what we definitely would assume. Teens know way more about these LLMs than their parents and even their teachers. And that's where one of the problems come in. Black parents are almost twice as likely to indicate that AI will have a positive impact on their students' learning than their white counterparts. And here's the one that is what we generally talk about on this show. And Black students are twice as likely to have their school board flagged as AI when AI was not used at all. Their teachers are basically saying you're cheating with AI when in fact they were not. That doesn't shock me at all. That's just the America that we live in. But the report overall was really interesting because it was basically saying, and this is what Common Sense Media does, they are developing training to go out and teach parents how this stuff works. But as importantly, maybe even more importantly, in some ways, to teach teachers how to use this, because it's part of this report. They're saying 80% of schools or 80% of parents are saying that they've not received any information about artificial intelligence to be used in the school. It's like it doesn't exist for many of these school districts. So I just kind of wanted to get you guys' take, and we can just, break out into a bigger conversation on, do any of these stats surprise you at all? Are there more students using it? Is it less, Steph? Do you think more students are using it to 70%, or?
70% sounds about right, I think. It doesn't surprise me at all. Number one, students are gonna and I'm not gonna say try to get over, but they are going to adopt technology faster. They're going to take advantage of something that will help them do their homework quicker or more quickly. And it actually is a very powerful tool to help you understand concepts and things like that. You can speak to ChatGPT or interact with and engage with ChatGPT as if it was your tutor and ask it to break down concepts for you and take you step by step through how to solve a problem or things like that. So I mean, I know everybody's all up in arms about, oh, they're writing papers and letting the AI do the homework and things like that, but there are actually very benevolent, if you will, use cases for this technology as it relates to students and learning. So I think, students understand that and are taking advantage of that. And unfortunately, most of the detection tools are just super flawed. It just is what it is. This is, from the article, it says the discrepancies in AI flagging may be a result of biases within the detection software itself, compounded by educators' own unconscious prejudices. Humans come with preconceived notions, and AI tools reflect these biases, leading to further unfairness for students of color. This was Amanda Lenhart, that's the head of research at Common Sense Media. And we've seen this already, right? There's a study out of Stanford that showed that AI detection tools have a really hard time with people that aren't whose English is not their primary language, who have English as a second language. So non-native English speakers have been having this issue in colleges and things like that. And it doesn't look like, I mean, there are a few different major AI detection platforms, but Turnitin is one of the more popular ones right now for educators, and that has had so many different issues around inaccuracy and bias and things like that. So, I get that teachers need something in their arsenal as well to try to keep up with what the kids are doing, but you also have to make sure that the software you're using works and is reliable, and figure out if there's the problem, I think, is that the teachers are just relying
defaulting.
Yeah, and relying on this technology to say, black or white, yes or no, 0 or 1, this student cheated, that's it, they fail. It's like, if you see that the detection software is flagging something, that's the opportunity to have a larger question with the student around whether or not they actually do understand the concept. If they did the work, they're going to understand the concept, and they're going to be able to answer questions maybe orally or rewrite or like give the students another opportunity to prove that they didn't cheat. And that's where the problem is coming in. It doesn't sound like the teachers are giving a whole lot of latitude when the software comes back positive, even if it's a false positive, and that's a huge problem.
Yeah, I'm at odds with this. On the first hand, what you just said, Stephanie, teachers ain't got time for all that. They underpaid, they
I get it,
understaffed, and
but
they,
this is a child's
right. And
educational livelihood,
that's the other part. It's like, all right, if you claim to be a teacher and you claim to be empowering, you claim to be educating, but such issues are now extending to Black students who already disproportionately are subjected to disciplinary actions in schools. You just take this and you magnify it. Teacher, if the environment is already set up to where kids with who English is not as their primary language, or you've got minorities who are already dealing with biases and things in school, you add AI onto school, then it's no surprise that Black kids and other minorities are getting flagged disproportionately because they're already disproportionately getting everything else.
Right.
So it's like
Catching hell left, right, and sideways. And this is not just Black kids, because, if it's happening to, we catch it, but it always filters out to everybody else. I actually wrote a little bit about this in a piece for Technically Philly. And I talked about, there was a case of a young woman named Marley Stevens, and she was a student at the University of North Georgia. She claims that she only used Grammarly to proofread her paper. The AI detection tool that her university used said she cheated, and without even giving this girl the benefit of the doubt, anything like that, she got a 0 on the paper. She lost a scholarship, and she is on academic probation right now because of this. So that's my whole thing. It's like, it can't be a zero tolerance policy when the software is not 100% accurate.
Yeah, and I think of that story, it's even worse than what you just said, because not only did all that happen, the university actually has a contract with Grammarly and are telling their students to use it. Right. She's using the thing that the school told her to use. Right. Nope, this is AI generated, and I believe that she is going through some litigation right now. We have not heard an update on that, and hopefully we will, because that sounds like something it'll get settled. We're going to give you a whole lot of money, but you can't talk about it, type of thing.
Okay, make it go away. Throw some money at it to make it go away. But yeah, you can't have a zero tolerance policy when the software's not 100% accurate. You can't do that.
Especially when the teachers are using AI to figure out whether or not you used AI. So it's okay for you to use it. Okay for me to use it. But here's the thing: it's going to have to change. Like, my oldest daughter, she knows how to write in cursive. My youngest daughter really doesn't. She didn't learn it from school. It's one of those things to where when we understood as parents that they were not teaching her how to write in cursive, my wife and I taught her how to do it. But that wasn't something she learned in school. It was like, school just said, well, it's not necessary anymore. These kids are typing everything. We can spend that time doing other stuff. I wonder if we're going to get to the point to where there's just certain things you just no longer learn because these tools are so pervasive and so easy to get to that it's simply just not necessary for you to learn it. Are you going to be able to learn how to do research, different? Like, the three of us are all old enough to where we actually, when we went to the library, we learned how to use card catalog. Right. Kids don't know how to do that stuff anymore. Why? Because it's just not necessary. You just go to the computer and it tells you exactly where the book is, whether the book is there, and what it's sitting next to, right? Right on the shelf on a computer screen. You just don't need to, that's not a skill that you necessarily need to learn anymore. So I wonder if we're going to start seeing AI start to displace skill sets that, kids are maybe today learning, but won't be learning tomorrow.
I think it already has. I think technology in general, I mean, ask a kid how to tell time on a clock that has hands on it. You know what I mean? Like, it's already been displacing. It's only just going to get worse, which I think, I appreciate the idea of advancement in technology, but I don't know that we can necessarily rely on this unilaterally because stuff fails. Systems go down all the time. Verizon's down right now. You know what I mean? Folk can't get on their phones and do it. Like, so it's just like, we still need those sort of fundamentals to be in place.
Now, one of the things that we didn't talk about when you were doing your demonstration of ChatGPT is how conversational you were able to speak to that. Mm-hmm. That in itself, that is a tech story. Just how conversationally you were able to say, talk to me in a whole different vernacular right fast. And it did it after 10 seconds of thinking about it. That is pretty impressive. And I believe we talked about Google's Notebook LM in the after party a show or two ago. But they
love you some Notebook LM, buddy.
they keep doing things that are.
I'm gonna send you. Hopefully I saved it because I somebody on Instagram. I saw it on Instagram. I think somebody on Reddit told the podcasters, the quote unquote podcasters at Notebook LM, that they weren't real. And they literally had a conversation with each other about the fact that they're not real and how to handle that, and the fact that they're about to get shut down because they're artificial. It was bananas, just absolutely bananas.
So there's bad things to it, because here's the thing that they added to Notebook LM last week. You can now just upload MP3s, or you can put a link to a YouTube video, and it'll go and take that audio file or that video, and it will give you a summary of it. That part of it is pretty good. I actually did this. For folks who don't know, I do daily tech headlines. Not every morning, three mornings a week. And I told it to actually go listen to daily tech headlines and then give me a summary of what I talked about. It's exactly what you would think an LLM would do. It gave me a good summary. But when you take it a step further, I said, now do the audio of what you think you just, of the summary. So here's where it became problematic. It actually took a 5-minute podcast that it put into a real nice, concise summary of probably 8 or 9 articles that I talked about. And then it turned it into a 15-minute podcast episode. So the problem is that now it is actually giving me opinion about what it thinks I was saying, as compared to just saying what I said. So from that standpoint, it's inaccurate. Like, I'll give you the example. I actually had a story that was about OpenAI and one of, actually a couple of those of their executives stepping down and, leaving the company. Right. I never once said ChatGPT. I never once said Sam Altman. I never told it how I felt about the story. I never gave it any sentiment. I literally just read a headline, and it decided that what I wanted to hear back was, and they really ain't feeling Sam Altman right now. And, here's another problem that ChatGPT is going through. And I never said ChatGPT. I only said OpenAI. So it actually, it used training data to know that OpenAI is the creator of ChatGPT, and it created that in the summary.
Isn't that what it's supposed to do, though?
Is it, though? Like, because this was based off of my notes. So my notes never had any of that sentiment in it. So if it was to take it, it actually added sentiment to something that was never there. So if I'm using this as a tool, that would be inaccurate.
It's not pulling from the internet also?
At all?
Oh, it had to. There's no, it had to have pulled from the internet, because my notes that I loaded into it never said, I never said the word ChatGPT. I never talked about.
The thing. I think it filled in the blanks and looked at all the
articles that were written.
Yeah,
and the sentiment in those articles,
right? Which is like, OpenAI is off the chain, because folk keep.
It was even worse with Elon Musk, because I put another article in about something that was happening in Brazil with I want to say Twitter, but with X. Yeah. Once again, I never told you whether or not I am pro or pro Elon or against Elon. It went to the internet and it did its scraping thing that it does. Decided that, well, the internet generally is not feeling Elon that much, so that's what your article is going to be about. That can be potentially dangerous if you're using this as if you are, if you're using this to take notes, and I'm picking on Notebook LM, but this is just, any LLM in general. If you're using it to take notes and to give you a summary on your notes, and it actually puts in commentary or puts in sentiment that you never fed it, you may end up getting a grade that you shouldn't get on the test, because you elaborate it in a way that you weren't giving that as a prompt in the beginning. So
that's why you can't use AI.
That kind of bothers me
by itself. Yeah. You gotta trust but verify. You should only be using artificial intelligence as a starting point to anything really. And original creative thought is never going to go out of style, if you will. Got to do the work.
So that is I think pretty much do we have anything else we're supposed to talk about today? I'm looking at our notes. I don't see anything else.
No, we
nope.
Yeah, it's kind of a tight 50 today.
Yeah, we got a tight 50 for this one. So yeah, you know what? It probably equals out, because our last 2 episodes were like almost an hour and 10 minutes long. So this is it. But since we don't have anything else, let's go ahead and get out of here. Before we do, though, I do want to let folks know that in order for us to bring this technology the way that we do to you, the way that we bring it to you, we rely on support. And one of the ways that you can support the Tech Jawn is by heading out to thetechjawn.com/Patreon. We've got multiple tiers on Patreon, any one of which will get you access to our live stream and after party. We're going to do our after party in about 5 minutes. And it gets you just, first look of the video of what we're actually doing. You can actually come in, you can become a member of our Discord community and have conversations with. There's all kind of benefits that you get. And once again, there's multiple tiers over there. Each one has a little, few different benefits, but all of them get you access to the live stream and after party. So if you would like to support the Tech Jawn, head over to patreon.com/thetechjawn. That's the Tech JAWN. And anything that you do to help us out, we really, really appreciate it. Didn't have any new patrons this week, but we had a streak. I think we were 3 weeks in a row before that. So we want to kind of get back on that streak.
Yes, please.
So with that being said, Tech Life Steph, tell folks how they can get at you.
You can follow me all around the web at Tech Life Steph, or check out my website at stephaniehumphrey.com.
And you can find me all over the internet at Brother Tech. That's BROTHATECH.
And I'm at Robb Dunewood on all the things. And we're also at the Tech Jawn, the Tech JAWN on all the things. So come holler at us however you holler until we meet again in a week's time. Peace.
Peace.